Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Liberty, watching the strange purple glow of the Kepler Nebula fill the main screen. 3 years had passed since that moment, but on Earth, people still talked about what happened next. They called it the Great Vanishing. Jake had been the best admiral in the Earth Defense Command. At 45, he had led more successful missions than anyone else. His dark hair was starting to show gray at the sides, but his blue eyes still held the same sharp focus that made him famous. The crew trusted him completely. Captain Lisa Taylor ran her hand through her short blonde hair as she checked the sensor readings again. She had been Jake's second in command for 5 years. At 38, she was one of the youngest captains in the fleet, but she earned her rank through skill, not politics. The crew of the Liberty respected her quick thinking and calm leadership. "Admiral, the energy readings are getting stronger," Lisa said. Her voice stayed steady, but Jake could hear the excitement underneath. They had been chasing these strange signals for 3 months. Dr. Kevin Walsh looked up from his science station. The tall, thin man with messy brown hair had been studying space anomalies for 15 years. He pushed his glasses up his nose and shook his head. "I have never seen anything like this before. The energy patterns do not match anything in our databases." Commander Ryan Brooks, the tactical officer, was a big man with strong arms and a serious face. He had fought in the border, wars against pirates, and knew danger when he saw it. "Admiral, my sensors show 5 Imperial ships following us. They are staying back, but they are definitely watching." Jake nodded. The Galactic Imperium always watched human ships. 300 years ago, they had conquered Earth and ruled humans like slaves. 50 years ago, Earth had won its freedom, but the Imperium still did not trust humans to explore space alone. Lieutenant Amy Foster sat at the communication station. She was 26 years old with red hair and green eyes. Amy could speak 12 different alien languages and could break any code. "Sir, I am picking up a transmission from the Imperial ships. They want to know what we are doing here." "Tell them we are conducting scientific research in open space," Jake said. Nothing more. The Liberty was the biggest ship in their small fleet. With them were the destroyers USS Phoenix and USS Ranger, the science vessel USS Discovery, and the supply ship USS Meridian. Altogether, they had 800 crew members. All of them were volunteers who wanted to push the boundaries of human knowledge. The Phoenix was commanded by Captain Bill Rogers, a quiet man who had grown up on Mars. Captain Susan Kim ran the Ranger with military precision. She had trained at the Earth Naval Academy and graduated first in her class. Dr. Kevin Walsh also oversaw the Discovery, which carried the most advanced scientific equipment humans had ever built. Captain Tony Garcia kept the Meridian running smoothly, making sure all 5 ships had everything they needed. "Admiral," Dr. Kevin said, his voice getting more excited. "The energy source is directly ahead. Distance is 2,000 kilometers." Jake looked at the main screen. Space looked empty, but the sensors showed something was there. Something big. Something that gave off more energy than a star. "All ships, this is Admiral Morrison," Jake said into his communication device. "Reduce speed to half, maintain formation. Keep shields up, but do not charge weapons. We are here to learn, not to fight." Lisa walked over to stand next to Jake. "Sir, what do you think it is?" Jake shook his head. "I do not know, but whatever it is not natural. Someone or something built it." The Imperial ships were getting closer. Ryan watched them on his tactical display. "Admiral, the Imperials are moving up. I think they want to take control of this mission." "Let them try," Jake said quietly. He had dealt with Imperial commanders before. They thought humans were still the same weak species they had conquered long ago. They were wrong. Amy turned around in her chair. "Sir, I am getting a new signal. It is not coming from the Imperial ships. It is coming from the energy source. Can you understand it?" Jake asked. Amy listened to her equipment for a moment. Her face went pale. "Sir, it is not a communication signal. It is something else. Something that is affecting our ship systems." Dr. Kevin looked at his instruments and his eyes went wide. "Admiral, our engines are shutting down, all of them. The Discovery, Phoenix, Ranger, and Meridian are reporting the same thing." Jake felt the ship slow down and stop. The lights dimmed, for a moment then came back on. Amy, contact Earth Command, tell them what is happening. Amy tried her communication equipment, but nothing worked. Sir, I cannot reach anyone. Our long-range communications are down. Ryan checked his weapons. Admiral, our defensive systems are also failing. Whatever is out there, it is taking control of our ships. Jake stood up straighter. In all his years of command, he had never faced anything like this. All crew, this is the Admiral. Remain calm. We are experiencing technical difficulties, but we are not in immediate danger. Lisa looked at the main screen. The empty space in front of them was starting to change. Colors began to appear, swirling like a slow storm. Jake, look at this. The colors grew brighter and formed shapes. It looked like a doorway was opening in space itself. Through the doorway, they could see stars, but they were different stars. None of them matched the star charts. My God, Dr. Kevin whispered. It is some kind of space portal. But the energy required to create something like this would be enormous. The 5 human ships began to move toward the portal. None of the crews could control their vessels. The ship's engines were not running, but something was pulling them forward. Jake activated the ship-wide communication system. All hands prepare for unknown conditions. We do not know where we are going, but we will face it together. Amy tried one more time to contact Earth, but the communication equipment was completely dead. The Imperial ships were also moving toward the portal, but they seemed to be fighting it. Their engines were firing at full power, trying to pull away. Lisa watched the tactical display. The Imperial ships are falling behind. Whatever is pulling us does not want them. The portal grew, larger as they got closer. Jake could see that the space beyond was not just different stars. The light itself seemed different, older somehow. Dr. Kevin, what do you think is on the other side? Kevin shook his head. I have no idea, Admiral, but whoever built this technology is far more advanced than humans or the Imperium. The USS Liberty passed through the portal first, followed by the other 4 ships. Jake felt a strange sensation, like stepping into cold water. Then the portal closed behind them, and they were alone in a strange new part of space. Behind them, in normal space, the Imperial ships found nothing but empty darkness where the human fleet had been. The energy readings were gone. The portal was gone. 5 human ships and 800 crew members had simply vanished without a trace. On Earth, Admiral Katie Sullivan waited for Jake's daily report. When it did not come, she tried to contact the fleet. There was no answer. The most advanced exploration fleet in human history had disappeared completely, leaving behind only questions and fear. Admiral Katie Sullivan was drinking her morning coffee when the alarms began screaming at Earth Defense Command. She was 53 years old with silver hair and sharp brown eyes. For 3 years, she had been the one to tell families that their loved ones were still missing. She never stopped believing they would come home. Admiral, called Lieutenant Carl Mitchell from the sensor station. He was young and nervous, with blonde hair and thick glasses. We have 5 ships appearing near Jupiter. They just showed up out of nowhere. Katie put down her coffee cup and walked quickly to the main display. Show me. The screen filled with images of 5 familiar ships. The USS Liberty, USS Phoenix, USS Ranger, USS Discovery, and USS Meridian hung in space like they had never been gone. But something was different about them. Lieutenant, are you sure those are our ships? Katie asked. Carl checked his readings 3 times. Yes, Admiral. The identification codes match perfectly. But there is something strange about them. Captain Mike Davis, Katie's chief of staff, stepped forward. He was a big man with gray hair and a thick beard. What kind of strange? Their energy output is completely different, Carl said. And they are not using any engines, but they are staying perfectly in formation. Katie activated the communication system. This is Admiral Katie Sullivan of Earth Defense Command to Admiral Jake Morrison. Jake, please respond. For a moment there was silence. Then a familiar voice came through the speakers, calm and confident. Katie, this is Jake. It is good to hear your voice. Katie felt tears in her eyes, but she kept her voice steady. Jake, where have you been? We lost contact 3 years ago. It is a long story, Katie. We would like permission to return to Earth orbit. Permission granted. But Jake, we need to follow safety protocols. A lot has happened while you were gone. I understand. We will wait for your inspection teams. Captain Mike frowned as he watched the sensor readings. Admiral, those ships are not following normal physics. They are moving without engines, and their hulls seem to be shifting. Before Katie could respond, alarms began ringing again. Lieutenant Carl's face went white. Admiral, Imperial ships are coming out of hyperspace, a lot of them. The main screen split to show the returning human fleet on one side and 12 Imperial warships on the other. Katie knew the Imperial ships immediately. The big one in the center was the flagship of Admiral Vorthak, one of the Empire's most aggressive commanders. "This is Admiral Vorthak of the Imperial Navy," came a harsh voice over the communication system. "By Imperial law, all unidentified vessels must submit to immediate inspection." Katie activated her response channel. "Admiral Vorthak, these are Earth vessels returning from a mission. They are under Earth Defense Command authority." "Admiral Sullivan, these ships disappeared 3 years ago. Their technology readings are unknown and potentially dangerous. The Empire has a right to inspect them for galactic security." Katie looked at the tactical display. The Imperial ships were bigger and had more weapons than anything Earth could send against them, but the 5 returning ships just floated calmly in space. "Jake," Katie said on a private channel, "the Imperials want to board your ships. What should I do?" Jake's voice came back, still completely calm. "Katie, tell Admiral Vorthak he is welcome to try." Katie did not understand what Jake meant, but she trusted him. "Admiral Vorthak, the returning ships are prepared to receive your inspection teams." "Excellent," Vorthak replied. "Prepare to be boarded." 3 Imperial shuttles launched from the flagship and flew toward the USS Liberty. Katie watched on her sensors as they got closer and closer. Then something impossible happened. The shuttles passed right through the Liberty like it was made of air. They flew through the ship and came out the other side, completely undamaged but very confused. "What just happened?" Mike asked. Carl stared at his instruments. "Admiral, the human ship seemed to have shifted into a different phase of reality. The Imperial shuttles could not touch them." "Imperial shuttles, this is Admiral Morrison." Jake's voice came over the open channel. "You are welcome to try again, but you will get the same result. Our ships are no longer operating under the same physical laws you are used to." Admiral Vorthak's voice came back, angry and confused. "What kind of technology is this? Explain yourself immediately." "Admiral Vorthak, we learned new things during our time away. We would be happy to discuss them, but not while you are pointing weapons at us." Katie watched as the Imperial ships powered up their weapons. She knew those guns could destroy any normal Earth ship in seconds. "Jake, they are charging weapons." "I see them, Katie, watch this." The Imperial flagship fired a massive energy beam directly at the USS Liberty. The beam hit the ship and seemed to disappear into nothing. The Liberty was completely undamaged. "Fascinating," came Jake's voice. "Admiral Vorthak, your weapons cannot harm us, but we have no wish to harm you. Perhaps we should talk instead of fight." Katie had never seen anything like it. The most powerful weapons in the Imperial Navy had no effect on the human ships. "Jake, how is that possible?" "Like I said, Katie, we learned new things. We would like to meet with Earth's leaders and explain what happened to us." Admiral Vorthak tried several more weapons, including missiles and plasma cannons. Nothing worked. The human ships absorbed every attack without damage. "This is impossible," Vorthak said over the communication channel. "No technology can do what you are doing." Captain Lisa Taylor's voice joined the conversation. "Admiral Vorthak, we understand your confusion. We felt the same way when we first learned these things. But impossible is just another word for something we do not understand yet." Dr. Kevin Walsh also spoke up. "The universe is much larger and stranger than any of us thought. What we learned changes everything." Katie ordered all Earth defense ships to form a protective formation around the returning fleet. She did not think they could actually protect Jake's ships, but she wanted to show the Imperials that Earth stood with its own people. "Admiral Sullivan," came Vorthak's voice. "The Empire demands access to this new technology. It could be dangerous in the wrong hands." "And whose hands would be the right hands?" Katie asked. "Yours?" "The Empire has maintained galactic peace for over 1,000 years. The Empire has conquered and enslaved species for over 1,000 years," Jake said calmly. "True peace cannot be built on fear and domination." Katie was surprised by Jake's words. 3 years ago, he would never have spoken to an Imperial admiral that way. Something had definitely changed during his time away. Admiral Morrison, Vorthak, said, "You will surrender your ships for inspection, or the Empire will consider Earth to be in violation of the Galactic Peace Accords." "Admiral Vorthak," Jake replied, "we are not surrendering anything, but we are also not threatening anyone. We simply wish to return home and share what we have learned with those who are ready to hear it." Captain Mike looked at Katie with worry. "Admiral, this could start a war." Katie nodded. The Imperials had never liked humans very much. This new technology would make them even more nervous. "Jake, maybe we should meet privately first. Figure out what to do next." "Good idea, Katie. We will come down to Earth. Admiral Vorthak is welcome to send observers, but he will not be controlling this meeting." Katie watched as one small shuttle separated from the USS Liberty. It did not look like any shuttle she had ever seen. It moved smoothly through space without visible engines and glowed with a soft blue light. The Imperial ships tried to scan the shuttle, but their sensors showed nothing useful. It was like the shuttle existed in a different layer of reality. "Admiral Sullivan," Vorthak said, "this meeting will be monitored by the Empire. Any technology that threatens galactic security will be confiscated." "Admiral Vorthak," Jake's voice came from the shuttle, "you are welcome to try, but I think you will find that confiscating things is much harder when those things do not exist in the same reality as your hands." Katie smiled, despite the serious situation. Jake sounded different, but he was still Jake. Calm, confident, and just a little bit smarty-pants when dealing with bullies. The shuttle landed at Earth Defense Command headquarters 20 minutes later. Katie hurried to the landing bay with Mike and Carl. When the shuttle door opened, she saw Jake Morrison step out, followed by Lisa Taylor, Kevin Walsh, Ryan Brooks, and Amy Foster. They looked exactly the same as 3 years ago, but there was something different about them. They moved with a confidence Katie had never seen before. They looked like people who had seen wonders beyond imagination and learned secrets that changed everything. "Hello, Katie," Jake said with a warm smile. "We have a lot to tell you." Admiral Katie Sullivan led Jake Morrison and his team into the secure briefing room at Earth Defense Command. The room had no windows and thick walls that blocked all electronic signals. She wanted to hear their story before anyone else did. Jake sat down at the large table and looked around at the familiar room. "Katie, what I am about to tell you will sound impossible, but I need you to listen with an open mind." Katie nodded and sat across from him. Captain Mike Davis and Lieutenant Carl Mitchell took seats nearby. Dr. Kevin Walsh, Captain Lisa Taylor, Commander Ryan Brooks, and Lieutenant Amy Foster sat with Jake. "Where did you go, Jake?" Katie asked. "We searched for 3 years and found nothing." Jake took a deep breath. "We went through a portal to a part of space where time moves differently. What felt like 3 years to you was almost 30 years for us." Carl's eyes went wide. "That is impossible. Time cannot move that differently." Dr. Kevin pushed his glasses up his nose and smiled. "That is what I thought too. But the universe does not care what we think is possible." Lisa leaned forward. "Katie, we were taken to a place where an ancient race lives. They call themselves the Architects." "How ancient?" Mike asked. "Millions of years old," Amy said quietly. "They have been watching younger races develop for longer than Earth has existed." Jake continued the story. "The Architects do not have physical bodies anymore. They evolved beyond the need for ships or planets. They exist as pure consciousness, but they can still affect the physical world when they choose to." Katie shook her head. "Why did they take you? What did they want?" "They wanted to teach us," Ryan said. "The Architects have been watching humanity for a long time. They see something special in our species. What kind of special? Katie asked. Kevin smiled. They say humans have a rare combination of curiosity, stubbornness, and compassion. Most species develop one or two of these traits, but humans have all three in balance. The architects told us that most young species either become too aggressive and destroy themselves or too passive and never reach their potential, Lisa explained. Humans are different. We fight when we need to, but we also help others when we can. Jake stood up and walked to the wall display. Katie, they taught us things that completely changed how we understand reality. Energy, matter, space, time, they are all connected in ways we never imagined. Show me, Katie said. Amy pulled out a small device that looked like a crystal. She held it in her palm and it began to glow. The light from the crystal filled the room, but instead of just illuminating things, it seemed to make everything more real, more vivid. This is a thought amplifier, Amy said. It lets us connect our consciousness directly to our ship systems. We do not need to press buttons or give voice commands, we just think, and the ship responds. Carl reached out to touch the crystal, but his hand passed right through it. How is that possible? The crystal exists in multiple dimensions at the same time, Kevin explained. Amy can touch it because she is connected to it mentally, but to you it is just light. Mike frowned. This sounds like magic, not science. Any technology that is advanced enough looks like magic to those who do not understand it, Ryan said. But it is still science. We just learned to use parts of science that humans never discovered before. Jake activated the wall display and showed them images of their ships. The architects taught us to work with the fundamental forces of reality. Our ships can phase between dimensions, making them impossible to damage with normal weapons. They also taught us about energy, Lisa added. We can draw power directly from the space around us. We do not need fuel or engines anymore. Katie stared at the images. The ships looked the same on the outside, but the technology inside was completely different. If you have all this power, why did you come back? You could explore the entire galaxy. Jake sat back down and looked directly at Katie. Because the architects taught us something more important than technology. They taught us wisdom. What kind of wisdom? Katie asked. Power without responsibility is dangerous, Amy said. The architects showed us the remains of dozens of species that gained advanced technology but used it to destroy themselves or others. Kevin nodded. They made us promise that we would only use what we learned to protect and help others, never to conquer or dominate. That is why we came back to Earth, Ryan explained. Humanity is at a crossroads. We can either continue to be pushed around by empires like the Imperials, or we can become something new. Katie felt a chill run down her spine. What are you saying, Jake? I am saying that humanity does not need to be afraid anymore, Jake said quietly. We have the knowledge and tools to protect ourselves and others, but we also have the wisdom to use them correctly. Before Katie could respond, alarms began ringing throughout the building. Lieutenant Carl checked his communication device and his face went pale. Admiral Emperor Zalkar himself is coming. His personal fleet just arrived in the system. Katie cursed under her breath. Emperor Zalkar was the ruler of the entire Galactic Imperium. He was known for his cruelty and his hatred of species that challenged Imperial authority. How many ships? Mike asked. 50, Carl said, including the Imperial flagship Dominion. It is the biggest warship ever built. Jake remained calm. Katie, do not worry. Let me talk to him. Jake, this is the Emperor of the most powerful empire in the galaxy. He has conquered hundreds of worlds, and now he is dealing with humans who learned from a species that was building galactic civilizations when his ancestors were still living in caves, Lisa said with a small smile. Amy stood up and touched her crystal again. Suddenly, her voice could be heard on every communication system in the solar system. Emperor Zalkar, this is Lieutenant Amy Foster of the returning Earth Fleet. Admiral Morrison would like to speak with you. There was a long pause. Then a deep, harsh voice filled the room. I am Emperor Zalkar III, ruler of 1,000 worlds. I do not speak with admirals. They speak with me. Jake walked over to Amy and touched the crystal as well. Emperor Zalkar, this is Admiral Jake Morrison. I have something you need to hear. Admiral Morrison, your ships possess technology that threatens the stability of the galaxy. You will surrender it immediately, or Earth will be considered an enemy of the Empire. Emperor, the technology we possess cannot be taken by force. It can only be given freely to those who prove they will use it wisely. Katie could hear the anger in the Emperor's voice. Are you suggesting that the Empire is not wise? I am suggesting that wisdom cannot be measured by the number of worlds you have conquered, Jake said calmly. Kevin walked over to the crystal and added his voice. Emperor Zalkar, we learned these things from beings who have watched civilizations rise and fall for millions of years. They taught us that true strength comes from protecting others, not dominating them. Lies, the Emperor said. There is no species older than the Empire. Actually, there are many, Ryan said as he joined the conversation. The architects showed us the history of this galaxy. The Empire is young compared to some of the civilizations that came before. Amy looked at Katie and smiled. Would you like to see what 30 years of learning looks like, Emperor? Before the Emperor could respond, every screen in the Imperial fleet began showing images. The images showed the architect's realm, a place of pure light and energy where consciousness existed without physical form. They showed the ruins of ancient civilizations that had reached heights the Empire could not imagine. They showed the careful process of teaching humans to use power responsibly. This is impossible, came the Emperor's voice, but it sounded less confident than before. Jake spoke directly to the Emperor. Emperor Zalkar, humanity is offering the galaxy a choice. We can continue to live under systems based on fear and conquest, or we can learn to build something better. And if I refuse? The Emperor asked. Then you refuse, Lisa said simply. We will not force anyone to change, but we will also not allow anyone to harm innocent people anymore. Katie watched the sensor readings as the Imperial fleet moved into attack formation. Jake, he has 50 warships, even with your new technology. Katie, watch and learn, Jake said softly. On the main display, they could see the Imperial fleet preparing to fire. The ships were massive, each one capable of destroying a planet, but the 5 human ships simply waited calmly in space. Fire, came the Emperor's command. Hundreds of energy beams, missiles, and plasma bolts flew toward the human ships. But instead of hitting them, all the weapons seemed to bend around the ships and fly harmlessly into empty space. Impossible, the Emperor said again. Not impossible, Jake replied. Just different. Emperor, we do not wish to fight you, but we also will not be conquered by you. Humanity is offering the galaxy a new path forward. You can join us or you can go your own way, but you cannot stop us. Katie stared at the display in amazement. The most powerful military force in the galaxy could not even touch 5 human ships. Jake was right. Everything had changed. Emperor Zalkar III sat on his throne aboard the massive Imperial flagship Dominion. He was a tall creature with gray skin, 4 arms, and cold yellow eyes that had watched the conquest of countless worlds. For 800 years he had ruled the Galactic Imperium with absolute power. No one had ever challenged him like this. General Vextar, the Emperor called to his military commander. Explain to me how 50 Imperial warships cannot damage 5 human vessels. General Vextar was a warrior from the Crawl species, built for combat with thick armor-like skin and razor-sharp claws. He had never lost a battle in 300 years of service. Emperor, their ships seem to exist in multiple dimensions at once. Our weapons cannot lock onto them properly. That is impossible. Our scientists assure me that dimensional manipulation requires energy sources larger than stars. Yes, Emperor, but somehow the humans have done it. Emperor Zalkar stood up from his throne and walked to the massive viewing window. Outside, he could see the 5 human ships floating calmly in space. They looked small compared to his fleet, but they had made his greatest weapons useless. Contact Admiral Vorthak, the Emperor commanded. Admiral Vorthak appeared on the communication screen. He was another Crawl warrior, but his armor showed the scars of many battles. "Emperor, I request permission to try a full assault with all ships." "Permission denied. If our initial attack did nothing, more weapons will not help." The Emperor turned back to General Vextar. "What do our spies on Earth report?" "The humans are calling it a miracle, Emperor. Their leaders are meeting with the returning crew right now." The Emperor's yellow eyes grew brighter with anger. "A miracle. As if these primitive creatures could develop such technology on their own." "Emperor," came a new voice from the communication system. It was calm and confident with no fear at all. "This is Admiral Jake Morrison. Would you like to discuss this situation peacefully?" "Admiral Morrison, you will address me as Your Imperial Majesty. I will address you as Emperor Zalkar, which is respectful enough for someone who rules through fear." General Vextar growled at the insult, but the Emperor raised one of his 4 hands for silence. "Admiral, you are either very brave or very foolish." "Neither, Emperor. I am simply someone who has learned that titles and threats mean nothing when you have nothing real to back them up. I have the most powerful military force in the galaxy." "You have a military force that cannot touch our ships?" came another voice. Captain Lisa Taylor joined the conversation. "Emperor, we have no wish to fight you, but we also will not submit to you." The Emperor walked closer to the communication screen. "Captain Taylor, your species owes its freedom to Imperial." "Mercy. We could have destroyed Earth 50 years ago, and we could destroy your entire fleet right now," said Dr. Kevin Walsh as his voice joined the channel. "But we choose not to. That is the difference between power and wisdom." Emperor Zalkar felt something he had not experienced in centuries: uncertainty. These humans spoke to him as equals, not as subjects. "Dr. Walsh, you claim to possess wisdom. Prove it. Surrender your technology to the Empire, and we will ensure it is used for the good of all species." "Whose definition of good?" asked Commander Ryan Brooks. "The same Empire that enslaves entire planets and strips them of resources? The Empire brings order to chaos. Without Imperial rule, the galaxy would be consumed by war." Lieutenant Amy, Foster's voice came through clearly. "Emperor, we have seen the records of civilizations that existed before your empire. The galaxy was not at war before you conquered it. You created the wars to justify your conquests." The Emperor's anger grew hotter. "Those are lies spread by rebels and terrorists. They are facts recorded by the architects who have been watching this galaxy for millions of years," Amy replied calmly. General Vexitar stepped forward. "Emperor, these architects could be our greatest threat. If they have truly existed for millions of years, they could have technology that makes even the humans look primitive." The Emperor nodded slowly. "Admiral Morrison, tell me about these architects. Are they planning to invade our space?" Jake's voice returned to the channel. "Emperor, the architects have no interest in conquest. They evolved beyond physical needs long ago. They only intervene when they find a species that might be ready to join the community of truly advanced civilizations." "And they chose humans over the Empire?" "They chose humans because we demonstrated the right balance of strength, curiosity, and compassion. The Empire has shown only strength." Captain Lisa's voice returned. "Emperor, we are not your enemies. We simply want to build a better future for all species in this galaxy." The Emperor turned away from the communication screen and spoke quietly to General Vexitar. "What are our options? We could withdraw and report this to the Imperial Council, or we could try to capture one of their ships for study. And if we cannot capture them, then we declare Earth an enemy of the Empire and blockade their solar system until they surrender." The Emperor considered this. A blockade would prevent Earth from trading with other worlds. Eventually, the humans would have to give up their new technology or watch their civilization slowly starve. "Admiral Morrison," the Emperor said, returning to the communication channel. "You have 24 hours to surrender your advanced technology to Imperial scientists for study and integration into our defensive systems." "And if we refuse?" Jake asked. "Then Earth will be declared an enemy of the Empire. We will establish a permanent blockade around your solar system. No ships will be allowed in or out. No trade. No communication, no contact with the outside galaxy. There was a pause before Jake responded. Emperor, you do realize that we can travel through dimensions now? Your blockade would be useless against us. The Emperor felt his confidence shake again. You cannot take your entire civilization with you. No, but we can protect our entire civilization from you. Dr. Kevin's voice joined in. Emperor, what you are threatening is exactly the kind of behavior that proves you are not ready for advanced technology. I am the ruler of 1,000 worlds. I decide who is ready for what. Actually, came Amy's voice, you are the ruler of 1,000 conquered worlds. The architects showed us the difference between ruling through respect and ruling through fear. General Vextar moved closer to the Emperor. Your Majesty, perhaps we should consider their offer to teach us about this technology. I do not learn from humans, the Emperor said coldly. Commander Ryan's voice came through the speakers. Emperor, that attitude is exactly why the architects chose us instead of you. The Emperor's yellow eyes blazed with fury. 24 hours, Admiral Morrison. Surrender the technology or face the consequences. Emperor Zalkar. Jake's voice remained calm. We will give you our answer in 24 hours. But I think you should know that several other species in your empire have already contacted us asking about joining a new alliance, based on cooperation instead of conquest. The Emperor's blood went cold. What species? The Volanti from the Outer Rim, the Jar from the mining worlds, the Corvan Republic. Even some crawl worlds are asking if there is an alternative to imperial rule. General Vextar stepped backward. His own homeworld was one of the crawl planets that had been asking questions about imperial policies lately. This is treason, the Emperor said. This is evolution, Captain Lisa replied. Species across the galaxy are tired of living under systems based on fear and oppression. We are offering them something better. Admiral Morrison, the Emperor said, his voice low and dangerous. You are playing a very dangerous game. Emperor Zalkar, we are not playing any game. We are offering the galaxy a chance to grow beyond conquest and domination. You can join us or you can continue on your current path, but you cannot stop what is coming. The communication channel closed, leaving the Emperor alone with his thoughts and his anger. General Vextar watched his leader pace back and forth across the bridge. Emperor, what are your orders? Prepare for war, General. If these humans think they can challenge the Empire with pretty words and impossible technology, they will learn otherwise. And if their technology really is as advanced as it appears? The Emperor stopped pacing and looked out at the 5 human ships floating peacefully in space. Then we will find another way to defeat them. The Empire has survived for 1,000 years by adapting to new threats. We will adapt to this one as well. But deep in his heart, Emperor Zalkar felt something he had never felt before. Doubt. These humans had power he could not understand, and wisdom he had never developed. For the first time in 800 years of rule, he was not certain that the Empire would win. In 24 hours, he would have to make a choice that would determine the future of the galaxy. And he had no idea what that choice should be. 24 hours passed slowly throughout the galaxy. On Earth, President Dan Miller met with his advisors in the Underground Command Center. He was a short man with kind eyes and gray hair, elected because people trusted him to make hard decisions. Admiral Sullivan, President Miller said, what exactly are we dealing with here? Katie stood at the briefing table surrounded by charts and data displays. Mr. President, our returning crews have technology that makes them nearly unstoppable, but they also have wisdom that might prevent a galactic war. Jake Morrison entered the room with his team. They had spent the night explaining their experiences to Earth's leaders, but many people still could not believe what they heard. Admiral Morrison, President Miller said, the Emperor's deadline expires in 1 hour. What is your recommendation? Jake sat down calmly. Mr. President, we should refuse his demands. The technology we learned cannot be given to those who would use it for conquest. But he could destroy Earth, said Defense Secretary Paul Adams. He was a former general who understood military power. No, he cannot, Dr. Kevin Walsh said quietly. We can protect Earth from any attack the Empire might try. Captain Lisa Taylor activated a small device on the table. Suddenly, holographic images filled the room showing the positions of every Imperial ship in the solar system. Mr. President, Lisa said, we have been monitoring Imperial communications for the past day. They are planning to attack regardless of our answer. Commander Ryan Brooks pointed to several ship positions on the display. Their battle formation shows they intend to bombard Earth's major cities first, then demand surrender. President Miller felt his stomach tighten. How many civilian casualties would that cause? Millions, Amy Foster said sadly. The Emperor believes that killing innocent people will force us to give up our technology. Then we have no choice, Jake said, standing up. We must show the galaxy that there is a better way. At that moment, alarms began ringing throughout the building. Lieutenant Carl Mitchell burst into the room. Mr. President, Admiral Morrison, the Imperial fleet is moving into attack position. All 50 ships are powering up their weapons. Jake touched Amy's communication device. Emperor Zalkar, this is Admiral Morrison. We have made our decision. The Emperor's harsh voice filled the room. Admiral, I trust you have chosen wisely. We have chosen to reject your demands, Emperor. The knowledge we gained cannot be used for conquest or oppression. There was a long pause. Then the Emperor's voice returned, filled with cold fury. Then you have chosen to watch your world burn. Admiral Morrison, you could have saved your people. Instead, you have doomed them. Emperor, Jake said calmly, the only thing doomed today is the idea that might makes right. Outside Earth's atmosphere, 50 massive Imperial warships turned, their weapons toward the planet. Each ship carried enough firepower to level entire continents. All ships, came Emperor Zalkar's command. Target Earth's major population centers. Fire at will. Hundreds of energy beams and missiles launched toward Earth. On the planet's surface, people looked up at the sky in terror as death approached from space. But the weapons never reached Earth. A shimmering barrier appeared around the entire planet, covering it like a soap bubble made of light. The Imperial weapon struck the barrier and simply disappeared, absorbed into nothing. Impossible, General Vextar whispered aboard the Imperial flagship. Emperor Zalkar stared at his tactical displays in disbelief. What is that barrier? How? Are they protecting an entire planet? Jake's voice came through the communication system, still completely calm. Emperor, this is what we learned from the architects. True power is not the ability to destroy, but the ability to protect. Admiral Morrison, the Emperor said, his voice shaking with rage, remove that barrier immediately. I cannot do that. Emperor, the barrier will remain as long as you threaten innocent people. Dr. Kevin Walsh joined the conversation. Emperor Zalkar, you have a choice to make. You can continue trying to attack a planet you cannot harm, or you can listen to what we are offering. I listen to no one. Then you will learn nothing, Captain Lisa said sadly. Emperor, the architects showed us the history of your empire. You were not always a conqueror. Your species once had great artists, scientists, and philosophers. That was before we learned that only the strong survive, the Emperor replied. That was before you chose to believe that, Commander Ryan corrected. Strength comes in many forms, Emperor. The strongest civilizations are those that lift others up, not tear them down. Lieutenant Amy Foster activated another device. Suddenly, every communication system in the Imperial fleet began showing images and sounds from across the galaxy. The images showed species throughout the Empire celebrating the news that someone had finally stood up to the Emperor. They showed peaceful protests on dozens of worlds where people demanded freedom from Imperial rule. They showed Imperial soldiers laying down their weapons and refusing to fight against civilians. Emperor, Amy said, your own people are tired of living in fear. They want to be part of something better. Lies, the Emperor said, but his voice lacked its earlier confidence. Not lies, Jake said. Hope. Emperor, we are not trying to destroy your empire. We are offering to help it evolve into something worthy of respect instead of fear. On dozens of Imperial worlds, people gathered around communication screens to hear the conversation. Many of them had never heard anyone speak to the Emperor as an equal before. "Emperor Zalkar," came a new voice over the communication channel. It was Admiral Vorthak, the Krawl commander who had first encountered the human ships. "Perhaps we should consider what the humans are offering. Admiral Vorthak, you will follow orders or be executed for treason. Emperor, I have served the Empire for 300 years. I have conquered 40 worlds in your name, but I have never seen technology like this, and I have never heard wisdom like this." General Vextar stepped forward on the Imperial flagship. "Emperor, Admiral Vorthak is right. Maybe it is time to listen." Emperor Zalkar felt his absolute power slipping away. His own commanders were questioning his authority. His own people were celebrating his failure. Everything he had built over 8 centuries was crumbling. "What exactly are you offering?" the Emperor asked quietly. Jake's voice remained gentle but firm. "Emperor, we are offering to teach any species that wants to learn, not just technology but wisdom. How to use power responsibly, how to build civilizations based on cooperation instead of conquest." "And what about my empire?" "Your empire can become something better," Dr. Kevin said. "A federation of free worlds working together by choice, not force. The species that want to remain part of your government can stay," Lisa added. "Those that want independence can have it. And new species can join when they are ready, not when you conquer them." Amy activated her communication device again. "Emperor, listen to your own people." The channel filled with voices from across the galaxy. Humans, Krawl, Volanti, Jar, and dozens of other species all speaking at once. "Please, Emperor, let us try something new. We want to be part of this alliance the humans are offering. We are tired of war and conquest. Give peace a chance. Let us choose our own path." Emperor Zalkar listened to the voices and felt something he had not experienced in centuries: doubt about his own methods. "Admiral Morrison," the Emperor said finally, "what guarantee do I have that humanity will not use this technology to conquer the galaxy yourselves?" "You have the word of people who could have destroyed your fleet hours ago but chose not to," Jake replied. "Emperor, we could have taken control of your ships and forced you to surrender. Instead, we protected innocent people and offered you a choice." Ryan Brooks joined the conversation. "Emperor, the architects taught us that true power comes from what you choose not to do, not from what you can do." For several minutes, Emperor Zalkar said nothing. He stared out at Earth, still protected by its shimmering barrier. He thought about his 800 years of rule, his thousands of conquered worlds, his legacy of fear and oppression. "Admiral Morrison," the Emperor said at last, "if I agree to this transformation, what happens to me?" "That depends on you, Emperor," Jake said kindly. "You can continue to lead your people, but as a protector instead of a conqueror. You can help build the new federation we are proposing, or you can step down and let others lead while you learn new ways of thinking. You would trust me to change after 8 centuries of conquest?" "Emperor," Amy said softly, "the architects taught us that every being has the capacity for growth. Even you." Emperor Zalkar closed his yellow eyes and made the hardest decision of his very long life. "Admiral Morrison, I am ordering my fleet to stand down. Perhaps it is time for something new." Throughout the galaxy, people celebrated as news of the Emperor's decision spread. The age of imperial conquest was ending. The age of galactic cooperation was beginning. Jake Morrison looked around the room at President Miller, Admiral Sullivan, and his own team. "Mr. President, I think humanity is ready to take its place as a leader in the galaxy, not through conquest, but through wisdom." President Miller smiled. "Admiral, I think the galaxy is ready for humanity." Outside, the barrier around Earth faded, away as the Imperial weapons powered down, but everyone knew that Earth would never be defenseless again. Humanity had,